What's what's going on, everybody? What is going on? Thank you for tuning in tonight to um, this live in regards to home insurance, but we have to kind of fall off track in regards to that. I appreciate you guys. Let me do my I like to always do my check-in just to make sure we're live. But we had a schedule where we were going to talk about home insurance tonight with the home insurance agent. However, unfortunately, she sent me over a message today. There was, if you guys don't know, we're down here in the state of Georgia, particularly in this Atlanta metropolitan area. And what happened is that we just recently had a snowstorm. And due to that snowstorm, some people's electricity went out and also some pipes burst. And please stay with me as well, too, because I know sometimes when I'm live or if you're watching this on the playback that this stream kind of goes in and out. But I appreciate everybody for joining me tonight. I appreciate Shannon Stam. I appreciate Von Shay Miko and everybody else who is either watching this on the playback for joining me tonight or watching it later on. Again, don't forget to tell me where you guys are tuning in from. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel as well. But like I was stating, the home insurance agent that was supposed to come on here tonight, she was unable to join us. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? She wasn't able to join us due to unfortunate events that happened at her house. Due to those weather-related stuff down here, her pipes actually burst and her electricity was off in her house, and so she had to take care of some things on her end. So I was going to, it was the last minute thing. She kind of told me at the last minute. So I really wanted to dig into this home insurance stuff. I really wanted to, like, if you guys don't know, the whole purpose of me creating this YouTube channel, sorry, I got a lot of stuff going on. The purpose of me creating this YouTube channel was three things, like I kind of state all the time on the channel. It was one, to educate people around real estate. Two, I would do some home tours here and there. And then three, just to kind of give you more of an insight in real estate, right? So that was the purpose of creating Clark, the Realtor channel. Now I just put it to Clark. But I appreciate everybody who joins in on these lives and on these conversations and on these videos. Okay, so nonetheless, I got all that out the way. So, but tonight we're just going to really just kind of dive into home insurance a little bit. I'm not a home insurance agent, so I'm going to be very vague on what I say, very surface level. Most of you people probably already know this about home insurance. And then we're just going to touch on the LA wildfires, what it could do to the housing market, and how home insurance could possibly affect us across the board in regards to if you have a nationwide home insurancer, and then dig in a little bit to how we already knew that some of these home insurance companies were kind of pulling out of different states in the beginning. We already knew that they were pulling out of states of Florida. We know in California they were starting to pull out of there due to any state that had a lot of weather inclement situations going on, they were kind of pulling out of. And I was actually surprised as I started digging a little deeper of some other states in which local home insurance carriers were kind of pulling out of. So it'll be interesting. If you guys have had any problems around your homeowners insurance, if you've seen an increase in it, let me know. I do know even when we not only had the LA wildfires happening, but we had the situation in North Carolina happening as far as Hurricane, Helene, also in Florida. And like I said, in parts of Georgia, a little bit kind of created some flooding. So it's a lot of natural disasters happening, which is making some of these home insurance companies pull out. But first, we're just going to dive into real quick, have a quick overview, and then we're going to look at some of this stuff in regards to the wildfires in LA. So a quick overview about home insurance, because again, the insurance agent could not be on tonight. Hopefully we'll have her on. If not, we'll have to keep the train kind of moving. I'll try to find another home insurance agent. I've reached out to several of them, of home insurance agents, and I don't know if they're shy to come on. I don't know if they just don't want to. They don't want you guys to ask questions, so we can actually dig into what home insurance does, why it's important to have it, do you need it, and blah 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 blah. But as we see what's going on, there is importance behind it. But we also know that throughout time and how things have gone on, that there have been some issues around home insurance as well, right? So if you're seeing any increase in your home insurance within the last years recently, please put it in the comments. Let me know. let us all know over here, because we share information. That's how we are able to tackle things. If we don't put everything out there and share together, we can't tackle everything and try to make a difference in the world, right? So if you're watching this on a replay as well, please let us know what's going on in regards to home insurance in your area, and if you're currently affected by it. But nonetheless, home insurance itself, as we all know, is basically an insurance policy to kind of cover you if any type of disasters or burglary, different things like that, theft per se happens to your home. Is supposed to help you in regards to trying to almost like making you whole again, kind of, either paying you for said items that you lost in your house to kind of get you back to whole, or helping you to fix things or rebuild things per se in your house. And then outside of that, that if you have a mortgage, most mortgagors or lenders want you to actually be able to hold some type of home insurance. I always tell people, even if you don't have a mortgage, it is always wise, if you can, to still hold on to a home insurance. You don't need it once you pay your mortgage off, because that insurance is in place to make sure if something shall happen in the midst of the lender kind of financing your house, that they can be able, that structure can be repaired and it can be recovered and back to that particular, so they can make sure they get, if something should happen in the meantime between there, they can make sure it's almost like they're levied to their asset per se, right? But I always tell people it is wise to keep homeowner insurance if you can. I understand, like I said, as these insurance companies are pulling out of states, it is harder to obtain home insurance, and this will also affect, unfortunately, this will affect everybody going forward in the housing market. He said fifth. What is that? What does the fifth mean? Oh, as far as what you're commenting, what's going on, MH08? As we all know, that it will affect us, going forward as home buyers. It will affect the housing market. And I'm going to kind of put on, if you guys don't know, I just, found some clips, because I'm not, I don't have connections to, Mauricio Umansky and all these big time luxury agents in California. But I did find some clips online of them talking about the effects that this wildfire is going to do in California in regards to home ownership. If you guys don't know, we've already been in a housing affordability situation. We've been in a housing shortage situation, depending on what state you're in. And now with these fires and these floods and everything happening, and the hurricanes around different states and everything, this is going to unfortunately make it more difficult going forward to create home ownership. It is going to do something with the housing market. So I just want to touch on that. And I just want to kind of give you guys some insight too about home insurance, some things I found out through a home insurance agent. Even if you're renter's insurance, things that you might not want to do, things you might want to stay cautious of, questions you want to ask your home insurancer. One thing that I like to tell everybody, that if you do have anything that needs to be fixed in your house, and if you're about to sell your house within, let's say, the next couple months per se, I would say the best way is to go about saying if you can personally pay for it out of pocket, because once you hit that home insurance claim, and if you do it several times, it will cause a great confusion when going forward to try to buy a house. Like I stated before, when we kind of did some of these videos and talked about this, I've had relatives that had problems where they sold their house. They put a claim in for a house through their home insurance. They went to try to buy a house, and because they had put that claim in, the claim follows not only the house, but it also follows you if you're the one to put it on the house. And it's a certain time frame between that. Like, I think it's about 3 to 5 years in which you can as far as those claims. So you don't want to put a lot of claims on your home insurance as well. And it's a big situation. But let's kind of jump into this. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. We are going to jump into the first video on Instagram in regards to if you guys don't know, I don't know if you watch Selling Sunset, but one of the realtors, Jason from the Oppenheim Group, he is discussing like what's happening in California right now, and basically how many people have been calling his phone or been needing help as far as just finding places to rent, homes to buy. It's devastating, you guys. It's really devastating. If you guys don't know, I'll share my story, but I used to actually live in Los Angeles. So let's jump into this real quick.
I woke up this morning to a lot of friends and clients reaching out because they lost their homes over the last couple of days, and they need help with places to live now. Their families are displaced, and as real estate agents, we obviously have an obligation to help them find a place, even when it's going to be difficult with thousands of people looking for places and not nearly as many houses available. But the Oppenheim Group is offering to represent anybody for free, or we will credit you back any commission paid if you've lost your house and you're now displaced. We will help you find a place, or do our best to help you find a place to rent. Real estate agents need to come together and work hard, for the community. This is our time to be able to give back. So reach out to us, office@ogroup.com, and everyone stay safe. Thanks.
So if you guys know anyone in California that has been affected from the fires per se, they are willing to represent anyone when it comes to buying a house, looking for rentals for free. So if you know anybody that has been affected, I just wanted to kind of put that out there so you guys know that they are willing, to help in regards to you not having to worry about commission, right? Compensation per se to the realtors out in that area. Let me also know if I'm freezing, and if you guys, please, I love when everybody, chats back in the comments. Let's have an open conversation. So please let me know too if I'm freezing. But yeah, so now let's kind of get into, I also wanted to share this in regards to the housing market and what they're kind of seeing too in regards to these fires in California. This is on housing, what is it? Housing Wire, Instagram. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Jesus. I'm sorry, you guys. So basically saying like how this will affect the housing market, right? It says LA's housing market upend as fires rage on. It says rental market chaos. The issue is right now we believe there are 2,000 to 3,000 people displaced, and there are only about 200 rentals available, said Anthony Margulies, I don't know if I'm saying that right, emphasizing the severe shortage of temporary housing. And then his name, I'm saying M, founder of Amalfi Estates. I don't know, you guys. Sorry with me trying to sound this out right now. Lost his home and is actively searching for rentals in the LA area. And then it kind of goes on to price gouging. So this is what we're going to see, and this is what it's scary, but it's always this thing like where when people are going through stuff or people are suffering or things are happening, it's always going to be somebody that's always going to try to take advantage of the situation, right? I even saw some clips online. I don't know if you guys saw it where, because I think everybody thinks it's only been the Pacific Palisades in which the fires have happened in California, but it also has been throughout other parts of California. And it's not just rich people losing their homes. They're average people who bought their homes years ago that now, and this particular market that we're going through these high prices because of the pandemic and everything like that, they won't be able to afford these things, nowadays. And so there is going to be price gouging, and this is what is scary. It said we're seeing several landlords have increased their rents by 50%. M stated, despite California's anti-gouging law limiting price increase to 10% during emergencies. So even though there is a law set in place in California, these people are like, this is the time for me to take advantage. Like these people too, who, like, if you guys, right now the housing affordability is crazy, right? So there has been a standstill where people haven't really been buying anything, and most people were like, I'm not going to leave my house right now because I can't afford to move to another house. Interest rates are, even though they're not technically high, but because of the cost of living is so high as far as price wise, interest rates just in the 6s and 7s is just creating a unaffordability level for people to be able to financially sustain a monthly mortgage. So with that being the case, now we're going to see even worse things happening to this housing market, especially in this California area. I don't live in California. Like I stated before, I used to live in California, in Los Angeles, California. And from 2009 to 2011, I lived in California for 2 years. I don't live there anymore. So I do have a lot of friends out there, a lot of past coworkers out there. I reached out to everybody. They are safe, which is a wonderful thing. However, they are telling me about the devastation that's happening in California, about not only, like I said, the rich person, quote unquote, people losing their homes, but also just the average everyday folk losing their homes. Not only outside of just people, but also like the nature or whatever. Like my friends are saying, Laurel Canyons, like Running Canyon, all those things, like the animals, the foxes, the snakes, the deers, the bears, all those things that are in those that nature part, they're all running now into the city. They're trying to get away from the devastation. So I think we're not only thinking about, it's not just human beings. There's the animals. There's also the water. All that fire is drying out the water, so it's creating a drought. So it's a lot going on, and this is going to cause a lot of confusion going forward with the housing market, like I said. And now you have people that are sitting on the sideline that are like, this is a great time for me to take advantage of people. Like my houses, the houses that were sitting there that weren't being bought because of the stagflation, as far as what we're going through right now, these people houses are just, now people are putting offers in. They're putting offers in. So it's just getting crazy, y'all. It says property damage by the numbers: over 10,000 homes, businesses, and other structures have been destroyed, and some neighborhoods have seen 100% of properties decimated. So again, this is going to be something to look at as well, because as we all know, when people own property, you pay property taxes, and property taxes pay for for different things in the city per se, right? It pays for the schooling, it pays for certain the fire department, the police, different things. So if people decide to not rebuild back in these cities, then how does one county kind of, how did I don't know how does, well, I guess basically how does it rebuild, right? Because unfortunately, we as people, even though America is one of the countries that rely on property taxes to sustain our economy, not like some other countries don't do it, but we kind of do it. Even though we're a capitalist country, the money flows in different ways per se. But how are we going to be able to effectively, rebuild? And if people decide that they don't want to go back to their homes, they don't want to rebuild their homes, they don't want the insurance companies, if they were able to still have insurance, they don't want the insurance companies to sit there and wait for the insurance companies to rebuild. So yeah, so in regards to that, and I think that's the last thing right here, it says displacement residents, more than 300,000 residents have been placed under evacuation orders or warnings, with many struggling to find temporary shelter amidst skyrocketing demand and limited availability. So they don't have, there's no availability for housing. So I don't know what you guys feel about this in the comments. Let me know. If you're watching the replay, let me know how you feel about this situation. And we're going to dive into it, because I know everybody's probably like, okay, Devon, we see this. We see this on TV. We're reading it all over. And again, the reason why I'm having this discussion is because, being in real estate, this will affect the real estate market. This is why I really was actually trying to have this conversation tonight with a home insurance agent, because I really wanted to know where the state of home insurance would be at, outside of us getting an understanding of home insurance as a homeowner or a home buyer, but also the state of what's going to happen. And this particular agent she's with a nationwide company. So I wanted to see how would this affect us nationwide, because I believe people's home insurance will go up nationwide, because they have to make us as consumers of American citizens, the money is going to trickle to us some way. They're going to make us pay, even if you're not in that state, to kind of recoup their losses. It's and it's not, I don't want to say their losses as far as like the people's home is burning down, but I'm saying their losses as far as insurance companies. Because insurance companies, you're paying your home insurance, but they really don't want you to use it. They really don't want you to use the home insurance. And that's why we have home insurance companies pulling out of areas, because they're like, these people are utilizing it too many. There's too many inclement weather disasters happening. There's too much happening. And so these home insurance companies, they're pulling out. So they really don't want you to use their home insurance, and so with people having to use it because of what's happening all over the world right now, and not just in America. I don't know if these home insurance companies, if they kind of span overseas and what countries they're in or where they're at per se, but I'm just going to focus on just, United States of America. They really don't want us to use this. So I don't know how you guys feel. Let me know how you feel in the comments. I'm like, sometimes I get on live, like, am I talking to myself? I'm like, I love that people come and kind of watch though as well. But I love when people kind of give their kind of let me know how they're feeling as well. So let's kind of dive into what Marcio Umansky is saying. If you guys don't know, he is a realtor out in California as well. And then we're going to dive into what it's kind of looking like. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys already saw some of the images of what Malibu kind of looks like, the Pacific Palisades, driving up in that area. And then we're going to get into home insurance companies as far as a couple articles and what they were kind of stating, and dive into how this.
We have an emergency meeting this afternoon with in our office to discuss ideas on how to advise our clients, how to advise our agents, how to communicate with all of them, but then also in addition to that, again, to try to find housing, and what are the needs of people. Is it as easy as clothing? And this isn't so much about shelters. I mean, shelters are important. We've got clients calling us frantically looking for leases. I'm frantically calling developers. I'm asking all developers that are building, homes and residences that have vacancy to see if we can figure out how to do short-term rentals and talk to lenders and, see if the lenders can, sometimes lenders don't allow for rentals, even though it's a, for sale product. And we just have so much of that inventory sitting out there. So I've been on the phone right now just trying to figure.
So that is him kind of talking about it. And I cut him short just because we're going to dive into a video with him kind of talking more about it. So I don't want you guys to feel like, oh, we're repeating the same things. But there are people trying to help this. And again, we're going to dive into how this will, affect us, the nation, how this affects us housing wise, like I said earlier, as far as us, this unaffordability crisis is going to get it. This is what I'm foreseeing. Again, it could go a different way. I'm just a realtor looking from my eyesight and looking at data and looking at what's happening. I really think that the housing market is going to really be crazy. And when people shift from these areas, like they were like just in Georgia in general, I would say that when the whole Hurricane Helene and all those hurricanes happened in Florida and the seasonality in Florida and everything, people have already been shifting to Georgia. And with that shift to Georgia, what it's doing is it's driving up our our housing prices over here. It's creating bidding wars in spaces where we weren't having anything. So with people shifting out of different states because of these disasters, it's going to cause for housing situation in whatever state they go to. It's going to possibly cause. Again, this is just me saying this. It's not what it could. This is not what will happen. This is what I'm thinking will happen. So don't quote me, don't quote me. But I'm just from seeing what happened in my market, and I'm saying like if this happens in other people's markets, it's going to cause a shift in home prices to go up. And then, as we all know, in order for as home prices go up, and when things get assessed per se for property taxes, your property taxes go up. So if you bought your house, let's say you bought your house for $100,000. Now all of a sudden everything on the street is going for $300,000. And you're so used to paying one property tax, it will shift, because that's typically what happens because as the property is assessed. So I feel like this is going to get even harder. It's going to get harder and harder as we move forward for people to be able to obtain housing. And we were hoping, and I know the feds were hoping like, oh, if we keep the interest rates higher, people will push their prices down on the houses, which will create for a more affordability for people to buy houses in the housing market, because we know that the houses are unaffordable now. I think what's going to end up happening, honestly, is I think that if people start shifting out of these places where these disasters are happening and insurance premiums keep going up and insurance carriers pull out of states and property taxes keep going up, of course, people are going to shift to spaces and places, and it's going to cause unaffordability levels in states where you typically don't see unaffordable housing. So it's going to be really interesting what Shannon said. Shannon said, as a first-time home buyer in Phoenix, I am concerned that we won't be able to afford anything here when we're ready to buy in the summer. It may be unaffordable for us due to people moving here and insurance premiums. Yeah, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, Shannon. This is what is fearful for me. Even though I keep telling people this, and I don't want to scare people off, because I always tell people if you want to be a homeowner, it's definitely a dream that you should accomplish. I feel like everybody in America should be able to own a home. I understand everybody don't want to own a home, but for those that do, I feel like everybody should be able to comfortably afford a home on one job. I don't feel like you need to work 80 million jobs in order to be able to maintain a home and to live a normal life. Um, and because of these disasters happening, like you said, Shannon, I feel like that's what I'm fearful of too. Like even though in those markets like the Arizona, Phoenix area, it was already kind of becoming kind of crazy with prices as far as what I had been reading. But I don't know. You let me know, Shannon, what's been kind of going on in that market. But from what I've been reading, I know that the prices have had kind of gone crazy. A lot of people, like builders, were building out there, but now prices are kind of shifting down a little bit. You're seeing like a little drop over there per se. But I'm scared that if people, with this whole California situation happening, if the California people shift over to Arizona because it's a closer state, that might cause for those home prices now that were just sitting stagnant, those home builders that, had properties just sitting there, no one were buying them and all that. It might cause for people to buy those homes and then shift everything up in price. And this is why I tell people, I know a lot of people feel like, oh, well, as human beings, this is what we typically do, which we need to stop doing this, you guys. We need to stop. I even tell myself, because sometimes I catch myself doing this too, but we got to stop doing this. We got to stop saying, oh, well, I don't know those people and it doesn't affect me. It's not affecting me. No, it affects us all. We're all affected, you guys. In some way, in some capacity, we're all affected. So we got to be mindful and we got to be, we got to see what's going on. We have to understand how things happen and and that's what I'm scared of too, Shannon. So, hey, what's going on, David? What's happening? What's going on? If you guys don't know David Matney, of course, it says living in Omaha. He's in Nebraska. Go check out his channel. He is a realtor in the Nebraska area. Has a wonderful YouTube channel. I was on it earlier, and he had a video about what was it about? I forgot. For sale by owners, I believe. I think I was on that one or something like that. But go over there, check out his channel. Give him some love. And definitely subscribe to David's channel. What David said, hey, Shannon, you have a legit concern. You are not alone. Hang in there. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But like I said, we got to be mindful. We got to be cautious. And even in insurances. So like I said, I'm going to read this one article. No problem, David. No problem. I'm going to read this one article because I didn't realize that, and because I knew some places were I knew certain states in which insurances were pulling out of, but this was a little bit more interesting. This article was it was put out a couple months ago in regards to other places in which insurances were kind of pulling out of. So they made this article in March 2024, so in March. And it says the American National Group, an insurance company owned by Brookfield Asset Management, reinsured partners, plans to seize its homeowners insurance business in 9 states. It says the shift is a part of plans to pull in Arkansas, California, Colorado, Louisiana, Minnesota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, and Washington, according to a company official. They said we have notified the appropriate departments of insurance of our intent to withdraw from the homeowners business in 9 states. He says so several years of increased frequency and severity and weather events have caused an increased lack of profitability in the line of business. So again, at the end of the day, too, home insurances, they're like, we're in America. This country is a capitalist country. We're all capitalists in some way, right? I know people be like, oh, I'm not a capitalist. It's just the businesses are capitalists, but a capitalist works in every way, right? If you're buying something from somebody else or from the store or whatever, we're capitalists. We're taking our money, we're buying stuff and different things. So it all intertwines. That's why I say we got to really understand the whole picture. I feel like we kind of get caught in the moment and then just our picture. We got to understand the whole picture. And so they're pulling out of these states, and it's because at the end of the day, they're trying to make money, even though I have this whole situation with home insurance and insurance in general, y'all, just from like regular insurance, car insurance, home insurance, any insurance. I have this whole situation where as we, and I kind of wanted to bring this up with the insurance agent tonight, but anyway, as we pay yearly on our insurance, on our premiums, or annually, annually or semi-annually, depending on how you kind of pay your insurance per se, or if you just, pay But in regards to that, I was like, is there a way that at the end of the term per se, before we renew our insurance because we didn't use our insurance, could we get a discount somewhere? I know they got to make money too, but I'm like, can we get, if I'm paying you $1,000 and I don't utilize my insurance, can I get 200 back at the end of the year? But it don't work like that. But why not? Shannon said it was beginning to soften here. I noticed a lot of pendings after the new year. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I heard it was, like I said, I heard it was kind of softening over there in Arizona and some spots per se. But wow, a lot of pendings after the new year. Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. I wonder what made people start going out there to buy. Now I'm like, that's what I'm saying. Now I'm scared now because of this weather situation in Arizona being so close. I remember when I lived in California, I drove to Arizona because I have a friend that lived out in Arizona at the time, and we drove out there, me and my other friends, to see him. And I think it was about, I feel like I might be wrong. I feel like it took me about 4 or 5 hours to get out there, like via car. And then I drove to Vegas one time in Nevada. It took me about 4 hours to get there. Me and my friends. At the time, I had a friend who was in the entertainment industry, and he was managing a dancer, and she was a part of the Beth Midler show. And we all drove out there to kind of see her in Nevada. It took us about like 4.5 hours when I lived in California. So those states are like closer states. So I wouldn't be surprised if people shift to those states that are out there that kind of still want to be on the West Coast and still kind of have certain type of weather, even though the Phoenix weather and California weather is not really similar per se. It's a little bit more drier and hotter. I felt like when I was in Arizona, I could be wrong, but yeah. Clark, you are spot on. The insurance companies are national companies, so when one area is impacted, other policy holders are affected. Yep, exactly, David. When one area is affected, impacted. So when one area happens in one area, we're all impacted. In Nebraska, they will drop you if you file too many claims, even if nothing is paid out. And this was another thing I kind of want to talk about tonight with the insurance agent, which is a great point, David, because I've talked to a couple insurance agents, like when I worked with other clients that were buying houses. And I actually reached out to all these insurance agents to try to get them to come on here with me. But I was so lucky when I got one that was like, okay, I'll come on, because nobody kind of wanted to come on. And I think right now, what's happening right now in the world and the nation and the insurance claims happening and people companies pulling out and this, I think everybody's trying to be very cautious of what they kind of talk about and the platforms that they're on. But again, this platform is to educate and advocate. So we're not here to bash anybody per se, but we're here to just tell the real about what's happening and get more knowledge out to people so they know how to utilize things going forward. But yeah, I was going to talk about this too, as far as like filing too many claims. And this is one thing I want to tell people, and this is what I heard from the one insurance agent I talked to. And similar to what David said, if you're going to call your insurance company, say somebody says, oh, you should file a claim or in your house or whatever. I tell people, call the insurance agent company directly. Call your actual insurance agent. Do not call the 1-800 number, because this is what the insurance person told me. He said, once you call the 1-800 insurance, 1-800 number, that goes to the claim department. If you file a claim, if you call them, even just to ask a question about should you or should you not file a claim, they automatically will file a claim on whatever you're talking about. And even if you're not paid out, even if you're not making no money per se, and they're not fixing anything or all that things, they're automatically going to you will have a claim. So be cautious about that, because filing a claim going forward, if you have too many claims, it's going to be hard for you to be able to get home insurance from that particular company when you try to buy another house going forward. It might be hard because they have I think, what is it called? The Clue Report, I believe. I think we talked about this on the last thing. It kind of compiles all the claims as far as what you file on a house. And so the claim stays with the house, but also if you're the person, it follows you too. So it'll stay with the house, but it follows the person who set the claim too. So what'll happen is that going forward, and I'm talking out of experience just because one of my relatives went through this. Well, I'll tell you who it was. It was my mom. My mom went through this. I don't want to put her business on blast, but she went through this, and I think we talked about this on other live. So I guess her business is already on blast. But she went through this where she filed a claim on the roof of her house. She at the time she was in the state of Georgia. I didn't live in Georgia. I was doing real estate up north in Jersey tri-state area with a partner. We were doing investment real estate, so I didn't have my license at that time. And she was selling her house. And when she sold her house, the agent told her that she should utilize. So the buyers, I guess they couldn't get I don't know if they couldn't get the loan approved, because also too, there's stipulations now with loans that if the roof is over a certain amount of years old, and we talked about this on one of the lives, if the roof is a certain amount of years old, there were some insurance companies are not insuring it, and then you have to find a local insurance company that might insure it, and then if they do insure it, they'll probably charge you more money for said insurance. And also the lenders have like their own that they can kind of connect you with their own, because they have to insure the house. So even if you have to go through the lenders, insurance people, they have to insure the house. And I believe the one of the largest insurance companies that still insure things, but they cost a lot of money, no matter what the damages are. I think it's like, I think it's like something Lords of something. I forget. Let me see. Let me Google real quick. Lords. Well, I was trying to Google, but my computer don't work. But it's Lords of something. I don't want to freeze the computer. But anyway, they have to insure you per se. So it's either you're going to pay additional more on your insurance, or you're not going to get insured. So anyway, my mom, she sold her house. She got her roof replaced through her insurance company. She sold the house, moved back up north, and then she tried to buy a house. Let me know, guys, if I'm freezing on my end. I'm freezing, so let me know if I'm freezing or not, because I know this streaming platform freezes a lot. But she tried to buy a house, and then the insurance company said, we can't insure you because the claim that you just put in. And she actually only put one claim in. So it's crazy, because I know when I talk to insurances, they say if you put at least like 2 or more in, it's like not good. But she only put one claim in, and they didn't want to insure her. And so, yeah. But yeah, David, you're absolutely right. Shannon said, wow, that's crazy. Yes, it's crazy, Shannon. That's the reason why I was saying that I wanted to kind of have the home insurance agent come on here, and I want to have these conversations around home insurance so people can know, what to do, what not to do, what makes sense. Like if you're trying to sell a house and you're trying to buy another house after selling the house, maybe it might not make sense to try to put an insurance claim on the house. You might want to go out and get some quotes from a local person that could possibly fix it, and find a way in which you can like negotiate with that business. That's what we're doing right now. I have a seller that's selling his house over here in Georgia. It's some things that needs to be fixed in regards to, and he was like, should I do an insurance claim? I was like, no. I was like, before you do an insurance claim, I'm not telling you, if you guys can do whatever you want to do. I'm just telling you, I don't want to tell you not to do stuff, because ultimately you have to do what helps you per se. But I'm just saying from experience and from the knowledge that I know on my end. But again, every state is different. Every law is different. Every regulations is different in different states. So I don't know. I guess I'm gonna stay from Georgia. I just want to make sure, I don't get everybody out here like, well, Devon told me. But but I told him, I was like, it might be better for you to go and get some quotes, and see how much things will cost. And so he did that. He went got some quotes, saw how much things will cost. He was like, I don't think I can, cover all that. I said, okay, well, let's talk to the person you got quotes from and say, hey, is it possible, that if he puts a little down in the beginning, can he get the rest taken out at closing when he closes on the house? And they said, sure, we can do, 5% down in the beginning, or, a flat fee of this down, or a percentage of this, whatever per se down. And then at closing, we'll recoup the rest, So you just got to be mindful that is coming out of your proceeds. So if you think you're about to get this amount back, deduct that and deduct anything else that might possibly come out if you're giving closing costs and this, just so you can kind of know where your number is at. But there's ways to work around things, and we got to get, it's just, I don't want to say more creative, but once you start understanding how things can work and help you out per se, you'll know how to kind of move, different things around going forward. Shannon said the insurance companies penalize you for calling the 1-800 number for a question I didn't know. Yes, they penalize you, Shannon. So do not call the 1-800 company when you are trying to, if you're just calling for a question. Call the direct, go down to your local insurance office. If there's an agent sitting in there, talk to them directly, or call, if you have a phone number from the agent that does your insurance, call that actual agent. Do not call the 1-800 number, you guys. I'm telling you, I'm just telling you this because I've talked to the real estate agent, and They told me this though. I'm trying to save you guys because you will literally get a claim put on you and nothing paid out because of a question. Do not call them. That 1-800 number. And then also something else that I had found out too from the home insurance agent is that if you are utilizing renter's insurance, right? If you're utilizing renter's insurance and you're putting a lot of claims, and you're putting a lot of claims in, like say a lot of theft is happening, people stealing your stuff, or things happening, the building burns down, and you keep putting claims in, to recoup the loss as far as your items per se, like the amount per se, that of what you lost. What can happen is that if you're going forward to try to buy a house and you put all these rental claims in on your renter's insurance, that that follows you too. Those claims, those renter insurance claims follows you too. So if you're trying to buy a house, some home insurance companies will deny you home insurance, or they'll try to charge you more money because they're like, you have too many rental insurance claims. So be careful too. If you're renting and you're looking to buy, be very careful because rental insurance claims can mess you up too. So these are, like I said, these were like more questions I kind of wanted to dig in more with the home insurance agent tonight, but to each his own, So let's finish up this article. And so it says inflationary pressures have also increased the cost of claims payments, which has compound the lack of profitability. It says home insurance costs have soared across the country, partly due to unpredictable weather patterns, particularly in places like California, Texas, and Florida, a development that has led to increased claims from customers that are hurting companies. So again, the companies are like, they're trying to see a profit, per se, and they're like, well, this is hurting us, so we're going to pull out. So these are like some of the states per se. It's kind of showing you where a lot of it, I guess, where they're kind of getting hurt the most at. And then it says major insurance firms like Allstate, Farmers, State Farm cease providing homeowners insurance in certain states due to similar reasons behind American National's decision. The rising cost of homeowners insurance is adding more financial burden to the housing market amid elevated prices and high mortgage rates. So I'm going to take this off because my screen is starting to freeze. Let me know if I'm freezing, you guys. My screen was kind of freezing. And again, I appreciate you guys being here tonight, having this conversation with me about homeowners insurance, what's happening in California with these wildfires. If I'm freezing, let me know. And if you're watching the replay and watching this back, please comment below. Any questions you have, if I can answer them, I'll do my best. If not, I'll try to shift you to the right person. And yeah, just let me know where you're tuning in from. What David said. We are seeing insurance companies making exterior inspections after closings. Wow. They are looking at roofs, siding, and trees. Oh, wow. I've actually had a friend, something similar happened to him. He bought his house, actually in 2021 down here in Georgia. He bought his house and he decided that he wanted to get the roof fixed. And I don't know how old the roof was per se. I don't know why my computer is freezing, you guys. Am I still here or am I freezing? Like I'm frozen on my end. I don't know what's going on. He says, no, it's not freezing, coming across good. Okay, on my end, I keep freezing. I just froze for a minute. But he bought a house. He decided that he was going to get the roof fixed. The insurance company sent out an adjuster. I don't know why I keep freezing. An insurance company sent out an adjuster to come and see his house. They rode by his house. And then the next day or next week per se, he told me that he got a letter, well, not a letter per se, but he got an email, and then he ended up getting a letter in the mail that the insurance company, they dropped him. Because they said, oh, it looks like you're working on your roof and da-da-da-da-da. So they dropped him. And I'm like, this is crazy. It's crazy, you guys. So I'm just, trying to tell people, just be cautious. Be very cautious in regards to, home insurance and what's happening right now and how it's affecting housing and things and what's happening in regards to the housing market, because it's affecting everybody in some way, somehow. And what these insurance companies are doing now, they're trying to find ways to pull out of everything. So let's kind of go on. We're going to see real quick a clip of like what California is kind of looking like, and I'm pretty sure you guys probably saw this, but we're going to look at California a little bit real quick. This is Malibu, and we're going to kind of talk again about, like I said, how home insurance will affect everybody. So this is Malibu. I want to put the music down. I don't want it to. So this is the Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu. I'm pretty sure you guys probably saw the. I'm going to put the music down because I don't know. I know how YouTube will turn around and they will hit me with a monetization, well, I'm not monetized at all on this channel, but they'll like literally not make it where, the video will be seen because of a music background. But just seeing like the disaster, the devastation. So this is all along Malibu, the Pacific Coast Highway. What's happening in California? Like I said, I know most people are, seeing this, whether if you're on TikTok, whether if you're on the news. But this devastation affects us all, you guys. It doesn't affect just people in California. It affects us all. So, all right, I'm going to stop sharing that. So I just wanted you guys to kind of see that. David said, if you do any remodeling, be sure to pull permits. If not, if something happens, they may not cover the item because it was not done to code. Yep. And that's another thing. Thank you, David, for saying that. Thank you for saying that. That is true. Make sure you guys pull permits. Depending on where you're at too, because I've seen it happen several times, and I always tell people, please do this as well. Don't just start building anything without a permit, because someone, let's say, so this happened to somebody that I know too. It's a lot of stuff that happened. It's like things happen, and then people call me afterwards when things happen. They're like, "Oh, Devon," and I'm like, "Okay, so why didn't you call me before that?" You know how it is. Every time, people are like, "Let me do this," and then once they get in the situation, then they call you because they're like, "Oh, he's in real estate and he would know, so let me call him." And so my friend bought a house over here in Georgia in Chamblee, and what he did is he started building a. He had a carport and he wanted to turn into a garage. And he started, and he filed for the permits, but I guess the permits didn't come per se. They weren't being done expedited or done as far as in timely manner. So he decided that he wanted to start building this garage. And what happens is that, say if someone next door or just a local person in the county per se just drives by the house and sees what's going on, we got people out there that's going to go back and look and see, like, are they supposed to be doing this? Especially if someone next door is getting work done and they have a contractor or somebody come out, or the county people come out to inspect things or whatever, they're going to be like, oh, well, they got, okay, let me, they might see that some building's going on. So they'll probably go back and they'll check to see if it was permitted and a permit has been issued or pulled per se, or, have been for the property, and making sure that you have the rights to do the construction or the work. And if not, they'll go and like, you got to stop building. Like they'll put a whole like stop, like a stop, like a force, like you got to stop it. Like like you'll get the pink notice or the yellow notice or whatever color it is in your state or your city, and they'll tell you like, nope, you got to stop until you get the permit. So that's a good thing too, David. As far as if you do any remodeling, be sure to pull permits. If not, if something happens, they may not cover the item because it was not done to code. So yep, that's a good one. Thank you, David, for that. Thank you. Shannon said, what started the wildfires? Dry brush? I'm not sure, because when I used to live in California, the wildfires always happened. One, it happened up in the mountains somewhere, right? Two, it happened where there was more of a dryness, as far as we will always experience some type of drought in California. So it would be like they would put an alert on, say, okay, it's really dry. Make sure you don't, use too much. You can only use the sprinklers for this amount of time, this time, blah blah blah. But it would kind of happen around like that. It would be like more of like the end of like the summer, like fallish season. It would happen, like the wildfire, like fires in California when I lived there. So this time around, I think a lot of people are like, what exactly started it? I know some people said that there had been possibility of people starting the fires, and I do know that what happens in California, again, because there's always going to be somebody that's trying to is trying to find a way to benefit or do something during the midst of tragedy. And so I do know that people would personally, like when a wildfire would start in California, when I lived there, we would see like other fires randomly starting in certain areas because people be like, oh, okay, these fires going on. Let me start a fire over here, and then let's do this so that we can start looting and we can start doing this and this different things. So I don't know exactly what started the wildfire, Shannon, but I'm pretty sure as we keep going on, they'll come out and they'll kind of state what kind of started it. But it's going to be interesting. I do know that they said they had caught a possible person that said they were interested, that they were going to start a fire, but they I don't think they did the fire. I think they were like but it's been interesting because the way in which the fires are kind of going throughout California right now, they're in certain places that we typically wouldn't see fires without somebody actually being arsenic and starting the fires. So it's giving a lot of interest to like, is someone like who is this a thing? Are people doing this purposely? Is you know, like, I don't know. It creates a lot of conspiracy, and I don't want to be a conspiracy person because the whole purpose of this live and this discussion is just to talk about how this will affect the housing market and also the devastation that's happening in home insurance and how to be mindful about home insurance, but hopefully get an understanding a little bit more about home insurance. Like I said, I'm not a home insurance agent, but I'm just to kind of give you some little nuggets here and there. Like David even put a nugget in there as far as pulling permits and making sure that if make sure you have those permits, so if anything happens, it can cover it per se. So yeah, I'm not sure though, Shannon, what started it. And let's kind of go into a I wanted to talk about this as well too, real quick, in regards to, and then I'll show a video and some videos real quick because I don't want to keep you guys here all night. But right here, let me go make this a little larger. Can you guys see this? Let me know if you can see this or not. All right. It kind of states more where we were talking about as far as like rising real estate prices. Let me see if we can go here real quick. Okay, let's start right here. It says, if you're looking to buy a home, you probably crunch the numbers of how much you can afford to spend. The budget will get you different kinds of properties depending on where you're hoping to call home. And surprising real estate prices, which continues to set records high, have stayed resilient even in areas where extreme weather is a common concern. Where did I have it? I had to make it bigger, so now I think it took me from where I wanted to talk about. Okay, I think right here I want to come. It says extreme weather challenges and costs real estate. Rising real estate prices may be keeping prospective buyers home buyers up at night. Loretta Waters, I guess I'm saying, I don't know if I'm saying her name right or wrong. Let me know. Sorry, guys. Vice President of Media Relations at Insurance Information Institutions says that for those who already own their homes, the potential for rising floodwaters should be a priority. So this is more like Florida per se. But I thought this was very interesting because she was basically stating in this article that the actual biggest concern to home insurance companies or insurances per se is really not things like fires and all those things. It's actually water. It's flooding, because they're like, flooding can happen in any area, any state, any time. So their biggest concern is flooding. So this is why they're kind of pulling out of those certain states that kind of flood a lot, because they're like, it's happening more and more frequently now. It says flooding is the most frequent and expensive natural disaster in the United States. It says these storms do not all make it into the headlines, but flooding is the most frequent and expensive natural disaster in the United States, says Waters. Flooding can happen anywhere and can be caused by many things, including severe weather, snow melt, dams or levees breaking, and new land developments. She said, according to FEMA, a single inch of floodwater can cause around $25,000 worth of damage. But despite the kind of financial headache, Waters, I feel like I'm saying her name wrong, but I don't know, says that only 6% of people across the country have flood insurance. So that's another thing, right, too, that I don't think most people realize, is that flood insurance differs from home insurance. And again, this is a conversation I want to dig into with the home insurance agent, because most people might not get flood insurance. And I believe when the insurance agent talked to me about, home insurance agent talked to me about, I think for flood insurance, it has to enter the structure a certain way. So I think if it comes up from the ground or something, it's considered flood. I forget. don't quote me, you guys, because I'm not a home insurance agent, but most people don't own flood insurance. And this is a conversation I had with a actual friend yesterday when we were talking. I was over his house and we were having a discussion, and I was like, yeah, most people don't own flood insurance and whatever. And he was like, well, it shouldn't really matter because it doesn't flood as much in Georgia. I said, well, according to FEMA, if you Google the percentage of flooding situations in Georgia, Georgia is a 98% chance flood state. So even though it doesn't happen frequently, we're 98%. So, and it doesn't really depend on what area you're in because it happened, recently, if you guys know, when the Hurricane Helene kind of came through Georgia per se and parts of Atlanta, there was flooding, there was disaster. There were roads down here, with water. There were houses in which was flooding, and you saw people, outside standing on roofs and everything. So flooding does happen. So their biggest concern with insurance companies is the flooding. It says there are major challenges in convincing people of the need for flood insurance. And also flood insurance does cost, it adds more expenses to the insurances, like all these different insurances that you have to pay for this and for that, and understanding the difference between your regular insurance, what the flood insurance is. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. This is the purpose of why I wanted to have this conversation with a home insurance agent, so you guys can ask these questions and we can get more insight. So hopefully she'll come on. We'll see. What's going on, Lang? How much does flood insurance cost? So I don't know. Let's do a Google search real quick. So because I don't want to give you a price because I think it depends on where you're at. But let's see. We'll say what is the typical what is the typical price for flood insurance? Because every state it changes, and it also changes depending on the area that you're in. Because depending on how frequently it floods, or it's almost like risk assessment per se, and that's how they kind of determine your flood, like the flood insurance. So let's see what they're kind of saying, and this is just a quick Google, you guys. So don't quote me on the prices. This is just a quick Google, and but it says right here, because I'm not an insurance agent, but it says right here that the average cost of flood insurance in the United States is around $800 to $900 per year, depending on the source. So like I said right here, factors that can affect the cost of flood insurance include homes in high-risk flood zones, like we were kind of talking about. The value and structure of the home, its elevation, and its building materials are all factors that can cost. So different factors that can cost prices for flood insurance. So it's going to be different depending on where you're at, depending on the structure, depending on all that. So yeah. He said, wow, no problem, Lang, no problem. MH, he said, all this just reminded me of the dead Kennedy's 1986 release, Forest Fire. Oh, geez, no. What happened in regards to that release, MH08? He said, who needs permits when you have weekends? When you have weekends. I know it sucks because we have to get things permanent, because if not, they will stop it from being built. They'll make you tear it down, because I've seen that happen several times with people too, where they'll say, oh, you got to tear the structure down. This was not permanent. Tear it down. So unfortunately we need it, and we all know, and we know this has been a big conversation with people talking in regards to like permitting in different areas. A lot of like home builders, the National Home Builder Association, all these people have been talking about how permitting has become a big thing for them trying to build houses effectively and timely. So I also want to know, how is with the whole stuff in California as far as these fires, how is it going to affect them trying to rebuild in the area where they are already stating how the permitting was taking a long time. I one of the clips we'll watch real quick. I think the one agent stated how it can take up to 3 years for permitting to be done for housing. So it's crazy, you guys. It's crazy. It's a lot. David said it's very expensive in Nebraska. I have seen $2,500 a year. It was a high risk area. Oh Lord, that's a lot of money. And that's a lot of, well, they said, wow, 20, yeah, that's a lot of money. Like, you're adding that onto additional home insurance, and whatever other things you need to get. I know that if you're in, like, FEMA has actual like areas that they laid out that are like flood zones per se. So if you're in those zones, it's required for you to get home insurance down here in Georgia. If you try to get around it, FEMA you will have to get flood insurance, because FEMA going to get you, or your insurance, or you won't be able to close on the house when you go to closing, because they're like, no, you're in a flood zone area, and it's required that you have flood insurance. And I don't know if people think about that either. So if you're going to buy a house going forward, everybody be very mindful of that. If you're going to buy a house, ask your realtor that you're working with if they can kind of look on the FEMA. They have a map in which they kind of show you where the flood zones is at, and ask your realtor if this is in a flood zone area. If you feel like you can't afford to get flood insurance on top of your regular home insurance, make sure you're not buying in an area where it typically floods. And if it's a FEMA regulated area, because you'll be required. I know down in the state of Georgia, every state is different. Let me preface that. Sorry. In the state of Georgia, you will be required to get flood insurance, even if you feel like at the moment you can't afford it. So he said, LOL, probably not as high as in Arnold, Nebraska. Oh, what's in Arnold, Nebraska? Is it higher over there to get that insurance? David said, we had some massive flooding in 2019. This house flooded in 2019. It was only 150,000 house back then. Wow. Jesus. Yeah, it's a lot. I don't want to scare anybody off from becoming a homeowner, though. I know people are like, well, you kind of scaring me, Devon, but I just want to put the perspective in that. Like, that's the purpose of, people like David Matney living in Omaha, David Matney, Christina Smallhorn, Jackie Baker, Jen Sylvester, Joe Pareca, like all these agents, even real estate mindset. We're just trying to give you guys some insight in real estate, understanding how it works, and try to best help you kind of navigate through it. So you can get more of an understanding and kind of be aware. She said, this is scary. Yeah, don't, man. That's why I said I don't want to scare people from being a homeowner. I don't want to scare people. I'm sorry, you guys. The goal is not to scare people. I'm sorry. He said, I was dispatching buses in 2018. I remember I-29 being shut down. Wow. Yeah, so, yeah, I don't want to scare you, Lang. I know people are like, oh, Lord, I'm scared to buy a house. But I don't want to scare nobody. Let's look real quick. Sorry. I appreciate you guys again for being here. If anybody's watching this on the playback, please, don't be scared to comment below. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button, and, but let's real quick go to this clip.
Josh Altman joins us now. Josh, you saw a lot of homes in LA, obviously. When we see fires like this, what happens to the real estate market after the fires?
Yeah, Stuart, I wish I was here celebrating a big sale or something like that. But unfortunately, we're here talking about 1,000 new renters and buyers that have now, unfortunately, entered into the LA real estate market. My phone over the past 48 hours has been ringing nonstop with different types of calls. First, you have the call for immediate occupancy in a turnkey property where somebody can put their family and then figure.
And you see how he's saying that? So, like, we kind of discussed this earlier, that this is going to be a problem because so many people are now seeking homes. And it's not just rich people. There's this average people. So if anybody was in the market in California to try to buy a home, price gouging has begun. A lot of people are trying to they're trying to find a place to call home again. They're trying to, if they have kids, they're trying to find a place to, to put their kids set up at so they can go back to school in the following week per se. So this is going to cause some crazy. This is going to affect the housing market. And it's not. And I feel like even though people are like, well, that's in California, like just like we kind of stated earlier when Shannon was talking, I feel like it's going to affect the housing market in several, and not just California, throughout America or even the world per se, depending on how people shift about. So with the MHOA, I've looked at FEMA flood maps for my place. Both areas. Dams could burst and I'd be dry with a view of the new lake. Oh, okay. So you're in a great spot where if anything bursts, you'll be okay. MHOA there. You won't get no water kind of rushing into your house. Okay, that's good. Yes. I suggest everybody, if you're looking to buy a house, even if you don't even feel like it's a flood zone, check the FEMA flood maps just to be, you can do it yourself. You can ask your realtor to do it, but definitely MHOA, it's great that you check those flood maps. You saw that you were in a good spot. So if anything was to happen, you still be in a good position. So yes, check those FEMA flood maps, y'all. Check those maps.
Figure out where they're going to go. And then you have the next call for the long-term leases for the 2 years, maybe even 3 years, because that's how long it's going to take to build these houses. And then you have the other call, which is the people who are not going to go back to places like the Palisades. It's going to take too long. You have neighborhoods that are going to be built. Are they going to want to finish their house and then sit there amongst construction for the next few years with their children in the house? It's not going to happen. So they're actually.
Oh, wow. You say you're on top of a cluster. Oh, wow. Yeah, hey, if you could be on top of something on a hill somewhere where you don't have to worry about these crazy disasters, you definitely need to be somewhere.
They're going to end up selling the dirt and actually looking to buy houses now. So to give you some sort of color of what's going on, we typically at the Altman Brothers, we list about $150 million worth of real estate a month. In the past 48 hours, we are listing $150 million worth of real estate. That's how much action we're seeing in the LA market. Now, on the other side of the coin, you have
because people also have to take into consideration too, outside of these $1 million homes being burnt down, you also have property, like as you see right here, you have apartment complexes. So this is commercial real estate too. So you have residential and commercial real estate. This is devastating, you guys. This is going to affect us because these commercial buildings, their insurance, their their per se, their insurance is expensive. You're insuring a whole building. So it's
of course the landlords, right? They're going to put their houses on the market even if they didn't want to, and they're going to charge a premium, which is an unfortunate thing because they think that the insurance companies are going to be paying for this. And then of course you have people that are putting houses on their market for sale in places like Brentwood, Santa Monica, Bel Air, Beverly Hills, because it's close enough to where their regular life used to be. So that's where they're looking to purchase houses.
It seems to me you can't rebuild, certainly you can't rebuild quickly until you fix all these green rules and regulations. Is there going to be a change in those regulations, a change quickly?
This is California. Nothing happens quickly, unfortunately. The average build time for a house is about 3 years. That's about a year in the permit process. You have to hope that if people lost their house to a fire, they're going to go to the front line. I don't know if that's been approved or not, so they can actually break ground.
So, yeah, so he's, so this is going to affect us. This is going to affect everything home insurance wise across the nation, you guys. So be very mindful. I don't know if my dad is still in the comments, but I don't know if he told me or if somebody else told me, but I know even when Hurricane Helene happened, it might not have been my dad, it might have been somebody else. But when Hurricane Helene happened, in North Carolina and Florida, car insurance wise, it had went up. The car insurance had increased a little bit because, like I said, they're trying to pull from everywhere to kind of recoup. Because again, like we read earlier, these home insurance companies are in it to make money. That's why they're pulling out of certain states. They're not seeing no profit, even though at the end of the day, the bigger picture should be around home ownership, around the people in which pay for the home insurance. But they're like, I'm a company and I got to make money as well. So they're pulling out. So with the disasters, is this a good time to purchase in the area or nearby? So yeah, so I know, let's round it all out, right? Like, so is this a good time to buy? Yes or no? So what I'm going to say is I always tell people I don't tell people when is a good time and when it's not a good time, right? It all depends on you personally as a person. If you feel like it's a great time for you to buy, then it's a great time for you to buy, right? However, it's just putting these things in the forefront so you guys know what you can be aware of. This is just off of my predictions, and this is how I feel. I thought we were kind of going to be on a downward turn a little bit as far as some home prices softening and then it would become a little bit better for people to be able to hopefully get into the housing market to purchase, because houses are unaffordable right now. They moved in the pandemic from affordability with lower interest rates around 3 to 4%, and then they pushed all the way up. In the pandemic era, you had unreal interest rates down in 2%. They're not the norm in the interest rates. That's not how interest rates kind of shift. They don't shift that low. And we were in a time in which no one knew, uncertainty. No one knew what was going to happen. So Feds adjusted accordingly. However, with that, it created where money was easier to borrow per se and pay back per se. So people were just going crazy buying stuff, which then in turn inflated prices. I personally believe that the investors inflated the market as far as buying things, whether it be corporate investors, whether it be new investors, whether it be mom and pop investors. Mom and pop investors not as much, but we had a lot of new people kind of entering into this whole space of wanting to invest. Watching, going online, looking at YouTube. Everybody knowing that real estate is an avenue to create, wealth per se. So we started getting a lot of shift, and then you had people who are in their homes like, I'm just ready to buy now. I've been waiting to move. It's a perfect time for me to sell, buy, low interest rate, can get a house that I kind of want to be in, where I want to kind of keep it going forward. So because of that, prices have adjusted to unaffordable levels, with interest rates going to a space in which it's kind of hard for people to be able to effectively feel comfortable enough to pay a mortgage. And so I was hoping with the Feds kind of keeping, adjusting things accordingly, but mortgage rates kind of inflated up because of the volatility was happening, that with the mortgage rates kind of staying at the 6 and 7%, I was hoping that it would cause some houses to be able to actually soften in price. And with that softening in price, it would allow for people to kind of enter into the housing market again. However, right now, because we have it, depend on where you're at, depend on your state, depend on your locality, because we got to remember that real estate is local to its market. But in Georgia, we're seeing a lot more houses kind of come on the market and sit for a long time, So depending on where you're at, with the houses sitting, typically, sometimes prices will move down. But if things are shifting in regards to all these disasters and home insurance companies pulling out, but they're trying to find money in different spaces, and property taxes rising, and the houses creating an unaffordability level on top of interest rates that are sitting in an actual good position per se. However, because the home price is so high, they're not really good for people trying to buy. So right now, it just comes down to you as a personal situation, Lang. Do you feel like it's a great time to buy? I would per se, I don't want to tell people to wait, because I can't predict what's going to happen in the future. However, what I'm seeing is that I feel like if people don't try to get something sooner or later, I don't know if people will be able to actually obtain homeownership. Just because I feel like what's going to happen with this whole California situation and these disasters is, like I said, people are going to shift. With people shifting around in different states and different places, what could possibly happen is it creates bidding wars. It creates prices going up. It creates a harder space for you to kind of get into a home now, because they're like, oh, well, I got to move somewhere. I got to live somewhere. And the house could be $100,000. And they're like, well, I'll pay $200,000. Will it come towards, the East Coast? It might not. So it might be okay, to kind of, still feel comfortable enough to wait a year or so per se before you buy a home, to kind of see how everything spans out. Because you can also look at it from that angle too, right? Let's just see how everything spans out. I live over here, even though I know this will trickle down some way somehow. But as someone from California, I'm going to want to move all the way over to the East Coast, to where I personally am trying to buy a house at right now in this particular small county in this area, because real estate is local to the area. However, we do know that with the locality of real estate, you also do need to check in. How is the property taxes kind of rising in that area? What is home insurance looking like in that area? Do I need to get flood insurance? So I would say just kind of write those questions down, and then see if it makes sense for you to be able to buy right now, or does it make sense to wait, see how everything plays out, and then buy. So it's all a personal thing, honestly, Lang. I can't tell you if it's the right time to buy or not. I'm just letting people know what could possibly happen as far as what I'm seeing from the data. And but I always tell people, if it makes sense to you, and if you feel like you can afford any type of increase in the coming years per se, because it will increase, if you feel comfortable enough to do so, I would definitely say, you know, try to purchase before it becomes a place where you can't, because I feel like the way we're going right now, real estate is going to become a luxury, and it's not going to become a sense of a place where every American citizen can afford real estate. I honestly believe that. Orlando had a good video about insurance companies pulling out of states. Oh yeah, Orlando Minor as well. Yeah. So yeah, if you guys have a chance, if you want to go check out more about that, like MH08 said, head over to Orlando Miners channel, because I watch his channel as well. And kind of check out what these home insurance companies are doing and pulling out of states and different things like that, because they are pulling out. They have been for years actually pulling out of states, and I don't think people noticed it until now, because of the housing market, because of prices going up and things happening, that now people are kind of talking more about it. But they have been silently pulling out of states. She said, he said, how about in California? Okay, I think we kind of talked about that in California. Lang said, she said, thanks, no problem, Lang. She said, I know that California is like in crisis. Yeah, they are. It's in crisis over there, especially that LA, that LA County area, and the other part that it was in, I think it was like close to near like Pasadena, like past that, up that way, that kind of was seeing some fires. What's going on, Lauren? Just a thought. I wonder how many of those people in LA are going to stay in LA, or are they going to look to other places to move, i.e. Texas? Exactly. This is what we were kind of talking about earlier, Lauren. I don't know. You're probably just joining us now. Thank you for coming on. I'm gonna exit in like 10 minutes, you guys. I appreciate everybody being here. If you are watching the video on a replay, please comment below, like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and just let me know where you're listening from or where you kind of tuning in from. But yeah, I feel like when the whole thing with California, like I said earlier with Georgia, when Georgia has been, I mean with Florida, with them experiencing those disasters, a lot of the Floridians have moved up to Georgia or moved to North Carolina, South Carolina. I even know people that moved from Georgia to South Carolina, North Carolina, even though we didn't have per se quote unquote disasters here per se. Like we did just have Hurricane Helene kind of come through Georgia, and in some places like I think like Augusta and you know, some parts of Metro Atlanta, we've seen flooding and situation happening. But but yeah, I honestly think, and so this is what I'm predicting, right, you guys? So this is just my prediction in regards to the shift from people from LA. I don't think it's going to hit every state as far as people shifting that make home prices go up. However, nationwide, what's going to affect it is going to be these nationwide insurances and looking at how they want to adjust or pull out of certain states or certain areas, which in turn, they're going to find ways to make us as consumers pay for them having to put out money to fix all this real estate and these properties. Because it wasn't only just houses, residential, it's commercial, it's schools, it's fire departments, it's stores. Like they're going to find a way to recoup that money for them to pay out. I don't know if you guys watched it a long time ago. It was even an issue when Hurricane Sandy had hit, I think, like in New York somewhere per se, and they went through this whole thing where FEMA wasn't there, and they were like not, you know, covering expenses with insurance and things. They were lying with adjustments and all this stuff. It's a big old mess. But in regards to all that, that's why I'm saying I feel like that'll hit everybody's nationwide per se insurance, because we already know nationwide people are having problems with property taxes too, but I feel that insurance will. But as far as the price of the house, it might not affect you depending on where you're at. However, my prediction, because we are in Georgia, like Lauren is stating, California, most of the people who live in California and some of those areas in which the homes burnt with that Pacific Palisades were entertainers. They are in the TV and film industry. So in certain states that kind of are cities per se that kind of adjust to that type of lifestyle, that entertainment factor, like Georgia, metropolitan area of Atlanta, we might see a shift. Like Fayetteville, you have Trilla Studios, you have Douglas County now, Lionsgate Studios, you know, Tyler Perry and Metro Atlanta, East Point area. And a lot of these celebrities kind of live on the outskirts. You have studios in Gwinnett, Alpharetta, Decatur. So you might see a shift like in Texas, depending on what state or what city you go to, Austin, Houston, where you see like kind of artsy stuff going on there. Maybe you might see a shift to Chicago because they film stuff in Chicago. You know, so you might see a shift, which in turn might make prices go up in certain areas, outside of just the home insurance affecting it, but also these people relocating from these areas like California that are in certain industries. So I believe, and this is my prediction, I believe with them being in certain industries, we might see a shift down here in Georgia, honestly, as far as homes starting to sell even though they've been sitting, like our homes down here, like we've been in stagflation down here too, where things are softening depending on where you're buying at, but also homes are sitting and they're just staying like stagnant per se as price points. And they've been staying on the market longer because of the space we're in right now with the unaffordability, the volatility of interest rates and all that stuff. We've been seeing stuff sitting, but I talked to actually someone today, and they said that they had a house here in Georgia, and all of a sudden they got a lot of offers on the house. It's been like multiple offers. So it's just going to be very interesting. But that's a great question, Lauren. So we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I believe something like that's going to happen. She said, what's a good amount of money saved up for a person to be ready to buy a house in Atlanta, in your opinion? In my opinion, Atlanta, it depends on the price point. It's all based on where you at in your price point. I always tell people a good percentage is to save whatever you want to buy. So if you want to buy a house that is $300,000, I say you should always save between 7 to 8% of that price point. So that's where I kind of leave it at. So let's say, so I'm gonna do the calculations real quick. $300,000, and I always like to do stuff on the higher end, because if you don't utilize all that money, at least at the end of the day, you have something left going forward. If anything might break in the home as time goes on, if you might need something, like, things happen and people, like, things happen in life. Like yesterday, I don't know if y'all can see it. I cracked my daggone case, my phone. I don't know if y'all can see it, but my whole phone is cracked. So things happen in life. Got out the car, fell on the concrete, my whole phone is cracked. So we adjust because things happen and we have to get things fixed. So I always tell people get more. So if you did 8% of $300,000, the Richard's going to use that as a round out number. I would tell you save about $24,000 if you're trying to buy a home in Atlanta, if you're looking at a $300,000 home. And if you did 7%, that would mean you would save about $21,000. But I feel like a good number, if you could save even $30,000, kind of like pushing up a little bit more, that's a good number, especially if you're trying to buy a $300,000 home, because you have to do your down payment if you're not utilizing any down payment assistance programs. You have to possibly pay closing costs if the seller doesn't agree to give you any closing costs. Outside of closing costs, there are also prepaid costs that the lenders have to pay in regards to set up like your escrow and all that stuff. And then you have like, if unfortunately now where we're living at now, if your realtor is asking you to pay some type of commission per se or compensation, you have those costs. So it's just like small costs and kind of give you that number. So I would say 7 to 8%, but honestly, I would round it up to 10%. I know people are like, that's a lot to say, Devon, but I'm always on the edge of being more cautious and putting enough money aside, because whatever you have left, you can then go buy yourself some furniture for your house. You can then put it to the side in case things break in the house. If the seller says they don't want to, give you a new furnace or HVAC system, you can be like, well, I have an additional $10,000. I'm going to get a brand new HVAC system or something. So that's what I would say, Lauren. So hopefully that helps. And we got to get Lauren back on here, you guys. Lauren is a realtor. She's a real estate agent in the Metro Atlanta area, but I appreciate you joining me tonight, Lauren. I love it. We got to get you back on here. So let me know when you're available. We got to get you back on here. MH08 said, Colorado is bracing for another influx of Californians. Yeah, I think they will probably see an influx of people. Again, those people shifting to those cities on the West Coast. I kept saying that I was going to move to Colorado. And as the numbers keep going up, the last time I was there in Denver and I went to a restaurant, I sat down, I was like, oh, this meal is a lot of money. I can't afford to live here. I can't afford to live here, you guys. Like, I know they have this whole perception on these reality shows that real estate agents are just out here so rich and got this and got that. I ain't rich, I'm going day to day, y'all. I'm going day to day. I'm just here to educate, advocate, help people out. Yes, I'm fortunate enough to thank God, and I thank God for this, that I'm able to help people in real estate and make a living, being able to do real estate. But baby, I'm nowhere next to rich. But if you know somebody that wants to help get me rich, let me know. Lauren said, oh yes, I agree. That's how companies do when they got to pay more for stuff. They really have their customers pay for it. Yep. And then MHOA said, who goes to Chicago? You don't know. Like, I have a lot of friends that are in the TV and film industry, and a lot of them live in Chicago. They shoot TV and film movies in Chicago. At one point, I don't know if Oprah Studios are still there, but They have, film studios in Chicago, outside of just New York. But I know it's cold up there. It's a cold state. I've been there several times as well. I've been there when it's been cold, and I had this, luckily my one friend in his apartment, he had heated floors, so we were walking on, like, even though after a while I was like, you got to turn the heat off. My feet are sweating over here. But people going to Chicago. You'd be surprised. Lang said, thanks for joining us, Lauren. Thanks, Shannon. No problem, Shannon. Thank you. I know you guys probably gotta leave. I'm gonna dip out of here soon. I'm gonna take it to like the 1 hour and 30-minute mark. So I got 6 more minutes, then we're gonna slide out of here. So if you guys gotta go, and it's okay. I understand. I don't want to keep you too long. It is a Sunday night. Lauren said, my friend just moved to Chicago. Couldn't find a 1-bedroom to rent under $2,000. Chicago actually more expensive than people think, at least if you're in the city. Yeah, Chicago people are relocating. Like, people don't realize that people are relocating to areas that most people, I don't think, feel like they would move to. But people have been relocating to Chicago. Just like people have been relocating to, Atlanta, Georgia, even though people been, we've been knowing that already. But they've been trying to find other areas because people that are in these high-priced states like, California, New York, such places like Colorado, to them, $2,000 to rent a 1-bedroom apartment, they're like, "Ooh, baby, that's good," because I'm paying $5,000 a month right now in New York. But somebody coming from another state, per se, like Lauren said, her friend moved to Chicago. I'm not sure what state from, but it might be like, "Ooh, this is more expensive than I thought. This is very pricey." But as we know, as people keep moving, as we keep getting more and more people in these areas, because most people don't realize that most of America is very condensed in certain spots around America. Like, we have a lot of rural land. Like, if you drive across America, there's a lot of rural land, and a lot of land that we can't really build on because maybe water resources don't go there, federal lands and different things. We kind of had a discussion before. And because of that, as we keep coming into certain cities, we're actually causing inflation because they have to then probably put more police in place because of possible crime, more fire people in place, they have to do, like, get more schools because the people are having kids. So the community has to build more and more. We have to employ more people. Property taxes are going to go up. So it creates an inflection, like an influx in pricing in housing and apartment rentals and all this stuff. So it's a lot. It's a lot. MHOA said, at least the food is good in Chi-Town. I don't know. I went there to get the Chicago deep, the Chicago deep pizza, and I went downtown in Chicago. I should have probably went to the south or west side of Chicago, but I went downtown. And I didn't like that daggone deep dish pizza. But I forget where I bought it from. I forget where I bought it from. So I'm like, luckily I don't know the name, because I probably would have said it on here, and I don't want people to not go there. So, but I didn't care for it. But I do like Chicago deep dish pizza. At one time, they had a place called Uno's, which was like a food chain, and it's not like, quote unquote traditional eating in Chicago, but I like that type of their pizza, as far as putting cheese underneath, the sauce on top. I actually like that. David said, "Thanks, Clark. Great show." Thank you, David, for being here. Thank you, guys. Thank you, David. I appreciate you for coming on and talking with us tonight. I appreciate it. Nora, what did you say, Lang? Do you know what area is somewhat reasonable, city or state? So a lot of people have been saying like Ohio, Indiana, like more of those Midwest states, Lang. So those are like looking like reasonable states right now. Michigan, like those kind of Midwest colder states, the states where most people don't go to, that are kind of seeing more affordability on housing. I saw a guy the other day, but again, we got to be mindful of what we see on YouTube and what we see on social media. But I saw a guy the other day. I think he bought a house for like, what? I think he said for like $50,000 in Ohio. So, and I think I saw somebody else. And again, this is what I saw. I don't know if it's true or not, y'all. But I do know from, if you go on Zillow and you look at stuff, you can see what states have like cheaper, affordable houses per se. But I saw another guy. I think he bought a house for like $45,000. So you never know. Oh, David said Omaha. He said Omaha, Nebraska is affordable. So there you go, Lang. Omaha. I think that's what he was saying it to. I don't know. Hopefully. We say Iowa has decent price. So Iowa, they say Iowa, Des Moines is cooler than you think. So there you go. So Iowa. He said deep dish is not pizza. It's a casserole dish. Tavern pizza is Chicago pizza. Okay, well, so that's my problem. So next time I go to Chicago, I gotta get the tavern pizza. Tavern pizza. So that's my problem. I just like, I don't know, I'm a fan of like thicker pizza, thicker crust, and a crunch. I like crispy pizza. So is the tavern pizza crispy or no? He said, okay, great to know. No problem. Omaha is cool. Thanks everyone for joining. We appreciate all you and your conversation. No problem. Yeah, thanks for the places. Yep. Only thing is that is the property taxes and the weather. So that's what David's kind of saying. So he's saying if you're going to go to that Omaha and that Nebraska area, the property taxes are a little bit more pricier, and then the weather. And he kind of talked about earlier, you know, even some of that insurance over there. So he said, and try the Italian beef sandwich. Oh man, I really would try Italian beef sandwich, but I don't eat beef. I don't eat beef. I don't eat pork. I don't eat any type of animal outside of chicken here and there. And I'll eat like, you know, shrimp and crab and lobster. But other than that, I don't eat any other type of animal. So I won't be able to try the beef, but I'm actually going to stop eating chicken too and stop eating the creatures of the sea as well. But Lane said, now I'm hungry. But nonetheless, thank you guys for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Even though we had a dilemma in regards to us having a home insurance agent on here tonight, I still appreciate you guys, you know, talking and coming into the space tonight, having conversation. I appreciate David, Mantney, MH08, Lang, Shannon, James, Lauren, and I know, was it Ron Shay Miko? She said she was listening from the bushes. So if she's still here listening, I appreciate you listening from the bushes as well. I appreciate everybody that comes on here and has this conversation around real estate. Without this conversation amongst you all, we can't be able to, without you all, we wouldn't be able to have a great, successful show in order to educate the masses that might tune in, because not only do I have information, you guys have information as well. So it's always great to hear everybody's perspective and join in the conversation. So I appreciate you guys. Again, one more time before we get off here, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell to know when I'm going live over here. And if you know anybody that is interested in coming to the state of Georgia, let me know. But thank you again. Lauren said, yes, thank you for your time. Stay blessed too. If you're watching on the replay, be here on Sundays, 18:30 Eastern time. Yes. If you're watching on the if you're watching the replay, what MH08 said, and if you don't know what that is 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'll see you guys then. Take care and have a wonderful night, and you guys be safe out there, all right?